What's going on, guys? Dare here with Fantasy Football Advice, coming at you with another fantasy football video. Today, we got a good one for you guys. In today's video, we're going to be going over your consensus must-avoid players for the 2021 season. We went position by position and asked you guys which players you're overall avoiding, and we got the top list of players that you guys strongly feel we should be avoiding this season. Before we do get into the video, though, just a quick shout out and reminder that if you do enjoy these videos, the best way to show your support is by hitting that like button. Only takes a moment for you, but greatly helps us out in growing the channel. As you know, our goal is to hit 100k subscribers by the start of the NFL season, and with that being right around the corner, every like, every subscription definitely counts. So if you enjoy, hit that like button, and if you're new, maybe you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, consider taking today as an opportunity to do so. Also, guys, be advised, our draft package is currently available now. So if you want access to our sleepers, our targets, our busts, our tier-based rankings, our player projections, risk ratings, video player breakdowns on the top drafted players, access to our private Discord community group, and more, if that interests you, once again, that can be accessed at our website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com, link as always in the description box below. With all that being said, though, it's time to hop over to our stat of the day. Yesterday's stat of the day was who is the oldest running back to have a rushing touchdown last season. The correct answer was actually Frank Gore. Congratulations to Trip Olgum, the first to get this right on YouTube, and as for Twitter, at NateTrotter4. Once again, congratulations to both of you. But as for today's stat of the day, sticking with the same theme but moving to tight end, which player was the oldest tight end to catch a touchdown pass last season? Once again, that's which player in 2020 was the oldest tight end to catch a touchdown pass last season. Leave your answer in the comment section down below. We'll be happy to let you know who wins in tomorrow's video. Alright guys, without further ado, it's time to hop right into the video. And today we'll begin with the position that's arguably the most important for fantasy. That's right, the running back position. And up on your screen, you will see the consensus players that you guys chose are the must-avoid players of the 2021 season. I don't believe that anybody on this list is all that surprising. We have Jonathan Taylor up at the top, moving into Miles Sanders, and rounding out the list, we have DeAndre Swift. Three players at the running back position that I definitely think come into 2021 with a lot of question marks, starting with Jonathan Taylor. This was a running back who not too long ago could be looked as a rusher who had it all. He was heading into the 2021 season behind one of the better offensive lines, running behind arguably the best offensive guard, and although their offense had a lot of work to do to be one of the league's leaders, at least they had one of the better defenses to look forward to. They had a new quarterback in Carson Wentz, somebody who was expected to produce a lot better than the quarterback who was in there last, Phillip Rivers. So when it comes to Jonathan Taylor, there was a lot to look forward to. Fast forward just a few weeks later, Carson Wentz goes down with an injury, and Quentin Nelson, all-pro offensive guard, he goes down with the same exact injury. Now obviously the outlook for Jonathan Taylor is diminished compared to what it once was. Our expectations of drafting a running back running behind one of the league's best offensive lines behind an ascending offense are long gone. Now the Indianapolis Colts are relegated to their backup quarterback, and as for the offensive line, that took a massive hit as well. We have to take a look at his ADP and see if the ADP did adjust to a fair spot to where we still feel confident in drafting him. You guys obviously have him listed as a must-avoid player for those obvious reasons. One thing I will say though is that by the time the fantasy playoffs roll around, this offense should be once again back with both Chris Carson and Quentin Nelson. So if that matters to most of you, if you can weather the storm, so to speak, then you could definitely be rewarded in drafting Jonathan Taylor, who himself is now coming off the board as the RB11. We have him ranked as the RB9, so we definitely dropped him in the rankings as well. Just keep in mind that we're not quite as low as you guys are on Jonathan Taylor, but we certainly do agree and understand why you dropped him enough to add him to this must-avoid players for 2021. The next running back we have up is Miles Sanders of the Philadelphia Eagles, who's coming off of a somewhat disappointing season himself, only appearing in 12 games. In those 12 games, he was fairly productive, running the ball 164 attempts for 867 rushing yards on the ground. Pretty good efficiency there, over 5 yards per carry. Through the air, though, he definitely took a hit. He was targeted 52 times, only catching 28 of them for a mere 197 receiving yards, no receiving touchdowns. So when it comes to total touchdowns, he only had his 6 on the ground. If we're looking for reasons why not to draft Miles Sanders, we really don't have to look all that far. First of all, we're not exactly sure who's going to be the quarterback this season. Yes, it's going to be be Jalen Hurts to begin the season, but what happens if it doesn't pan out? We've already seen with the Philadelphia Eagles, they are quick to just throw their quarterback to the side as soon as there's any sort of controversy or adversity. And when it comes to Jalen Hurts, an unproven quarterback who the Philadelphia Eagles were already quick to throw to the side as soon as the possibility of Deshaun Watson became available, it really makes you wonder exactly how much we can trust in this Philadelphia Eagles quarterback room. If you ask me, I don't trust it either, which is one reason why I've been a bit apprehensive in moving Miles Sanders up in the rankings. So just like you, he's a player I've been avoiding. I've been personally avoiding a lot of Philadelphia Eagles players for the same reason, but when it comes to Miles Sanders, he's also been a player that I've been a bit apprehensive in targeting. If I'm going to get one piece of this Philadelphia Eagles offense, it's definitely going to be Devon Smith at the wide receiver position. But outside of that, I can't say for certain there's anybody on that team that I'm really interested in targeting. Moving into the third and final running back on our do not draft list, we have DeAndre Swift, who is coming into this season as one of the most unique running backs we have off the board. With his situation, we know that he's going to be on a team, the Detroit Lions, who are desperate for pass catchers, with the team feeling comfortable in trading away of Matthew Stafford the same season that they also lost both Marvin Jones as well as Kenny Golladay, their two top wide receiving target. It really makes you wonder exactly how this offense is going to pan out heading into 2021. It's a completely new offense that we know nothing about, especially when it comes to the pecking order for targets. But one thing we know about DeAndre Swift is that he is a very proficient running back when it comes to receiving out of the backfield. With this team desperately needing pass catchers, you could put two and two together and say that DeAndre Swift is in line for a massive volume total for this upcoming season, which I really couldn't argue you on. But regardless, his current ADP is becoming a bit outrageous. Right now, it's sitting at the RB15. I'll tell you one thing, if I have DeAndre Swift sitting at my RB2, if he's coming off the board as the RB15, that should mean he should be considered and valued as a high-end running back too, meaning if he sits in your RB2 slot, you should feel absolutely great about him. And one thing that I know for sure is that if I'm exiting the draft and have DeAndre Swift as my RB2, I'm not feeling all that comfortable. For that reason, it should come as no surprise that we have DeAndre Swift ranked as the RB18, several spots below his current ADP of the RB15. But going back and just looking at the running backs that you guys selected as the consensus must avoid running backs for the 2021 season, we have Jonathan Taylor up at the top, definitely a player that I can understand with the recent news, losing their offensive lineman as well as quarterback. How can you really value him the same? You can't. Then running into the second running back, Miles Sanders, who has a ton of question marks when it comes to this offense and what you can expect from there. There's no doubt in my mind that every Philadelphia Eagles player this upcoming season, you're likely going to be getting a draft day discount. A draft day discount, something we're not getting on this next player though, DeAndre Swift, coming in at the RB15. Like I'd mentioned, we have him ranked well below his ADP, coming in at the RB18, so we're definitely in consensus with you. Alright guys, moving into the next position we have on our consensus must avoid players of the 2021 season, we have the wide receiver position. Leading this list, we have Chris Godwin, moving into Adam Thielen, followed by Mike Evans rounding out this list. Interestingly enough, we have two players on the same team, both on Tampa Bay, so obviously some of the reasons definitely come down to this offense. One thing that we know for sure though is that this Tampa Bay offense isn't going to be one that's not in scoring position frequently, so the only question we have whether these two players are going to produce at their current ADP definitely comes down to target market share. Looking at both players and when comparing them to previous seasons, it's easy to see that both players are seeing a reduction in volume but an increase in overall efficiency. With Tom Brady being the starting quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think that's going to be a trend we can likely expect to continue for 2021. As we know, they do intend to bring back Antonio Brown, who's already signed to the team, so just add another player's name in that bucket of hats that we're going to throw into that we call the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receivers. So I can get why overall from a week-to-week standpoint, you can't trust the safety of a player like Chris Godwin, that typically that's what you rely on him for, is his week-to-week consistency. Godwin definitely out of the two players, the one that relies on volume the most heavily, so definitely out of the two, if we're talking Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, I can certainly understand more with Chris Godwin why he's dropped in the rankings and why he makes this must-avoid list. As for Mike Evans, though, I can't say I 100% agree. Mike Evans is a player who carved himself out a red zone role this past season, and with him being a big-bodied player, standing 6'5", weighing over 220 pounds, it's no wonder why Tom Brady likes to target him in that area of the field. So I will say that overall, my outlook for Mike Evans is a bit more optimistic and a bit higher than it is for a player like Chris Godwin, so I can't say that I necessarily agree that he should be a must-avoid player. I think his week-to-week consistency may not be there, but Mike Evans has already proved throughout his career to be a player that on a season-by-season average, he can make up for any lulls in production that he faces throughout the season. season. That leaves the third player on our must-avoid list, Adam Thielen, which is a player that if you followed us throughout this offseason, you know I 100% agree with Justin Jefferson, the new wide receiver in town who's likely going to step into 2021 with a higher target market share than he had last season. Adam Thielen, a player who produced at a wide receiver 1 level on the back of many touchdowns, is definitely a player who could be the odd man out for the 2021 season. In 2020, he finished the season with 108 targets, catching just 74 of them for 925 yards, but the outlier here definitely was the touchdowns we spoke about, where he finished the season with 14 total. Clearly, 14 touchdowns on a small target market share like 108 targets is just too high of a touchdown rate for us to expect to continue for the 2021 season, and we can't even guarantee his volume, so to speak. So for a player like Adam Thielen, who's still being drafted quite highly, in many cases even coming off the board as early as the top 20 wide receivers, that's definitely a player that I can understand not getting behind, and certainly is a player I would add to my must-avoid list as well. Alright guys, we're moving into the next position. That's right, it's the tight end position. And leading this list, we have TJ Hawkinson, followed by Kyle Pitts. And to round it out, we have Noah Fant. Starting at the top with TJ Hawkinson, we had already discussed a little bit earlier on what our expectations are for this Detroit Lions offense. We know that there are massive changes, losing the starting quarterback as well as the top 2 receivers in this offense. Really, the one and lone constant on this team is TJ Hawkinson. And based off his production for 2020, it does leave open the door for him to potentially have a breakout season, even more so than he has in previous years. With TJ Hawkinson being a player in an undeniably good situation, the only reason we're avoiding him definitely must come down to his ADP, which, if we're looking at ADP specifically, definitely that's where I can start to agree with you. Hawkinson's ADP just continues to climb and continues to climb. He is being drafted currently behind Kyle Pitts, but he finds himself in this weird range where he's being drafted ahead of the tight ends that we know are going to be a bit hit or miss every week, and he's drafted quite a bit behind the tight ends that we believe to be superstars for 2021. When it comes to TJ Hawkinson for 2021, the old saying definitely reigns true that we don't dislike players, we simply dislike their ADP, because a prime example of that would be TJ Hawkinson for 2021. If you look hard enough, the other example of that can be the tight end behind him, Kyle Pitts, who's being drafted actually ahead of TJ Hawkinson for this upcoming season, but for good reason. We know that he joins the Atlanta Falcons team, and although he is a rookie, he is one of the most talented rookies we've ever seen grace the tight end landscape. And with the Atlanta Falcons losing Julio Jones, trading him away to the Tennessee Titans, that means there are going to be plenty of targets up for grabs in this offense. So Kyle Pitts is a rookie, but he's stepping into an immediate role on this offense, one that should be very fruitful for fantasy. When it comes to Kyle Pitts, like I said, we could say something similar where we don't dislike the player, we dislike the ADP. I think a lot of us out there would love to have Kyle Pitts on our team, but with him being a rookie and the history that we have against rookies when it comes to tight end production for fantasy, we don't have a very good track record. The safe choice, the likely choice that most teams would take is going to be to avoid him this season just based off of what risks it brings to your team by drafting him as high as he's going. For that reason, I can understand adding him to this list of players to avoid list. By no other reason do I think that anybody else is avoiding him, because he is undeniably in a great situation and definitely the type of player for us to see the upside this upcoming season. Moving into our final tight end we have on our consensus must avoid list, we have Noah Fant of the Denver Broncos, and when comparing the other 2 tight ends to this tight end, he really was the odd man out. Trying to find a reason why he made it on this must-avoid list was not very easy. Yes, he's been about a middle-of-the-pack tight end throughout the past few seasons, but at the same time, his ADP is about middle of the pack as well. So anybody interested in drafting Noah Fant, they're not going to have to pay this exorbitant price tag for him. But when it comes to Noah Fant this year, that must mean that the outlook for his offense does have to be somewhat cloudy. When looking at his offense, you do have a new quarterback, likely moving from Drew Lock to Teddy Bridgewater. Me personally, I do see that as an upgrade, but admittedly, in the short time we have seen Teddy Bridgewater as the starting quarterback we saw for the Carolina Panthers, we did see that he was not very fond of targeting the tight end position. Could this be why you guys added him to the must-avoid list? I can't say for certain, but I definitely believe it plays a factor. In addition to that, they also added new weapons to the wide receiver position, with Courtland Sutton now returning from IR. He did have a nasty injury that held him out for all but week 1 of last season. Heading into this season, they will have that extra added firepower at the wide receiver position. For that, I could see this used as a fact against Noah Fant as well as for him. While it will be another player to take away his target market share, Noah Fant basically had a stranglehold on that last season. It will also bring this team in scoring position more frequently if they have a better offense. Courtland Sutton undoubtedly does improve this offense, and Noah Fant would definitely be somebody that benefits from that. As it stands today though, Noah Fant was definitely a player that you guys listed on your must avoid list, but let's move into the final position we have, the quarterback position, and we really only had one player who made this list. That player was Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles. You've already heard me talk numbers about Jalen Hurts throughout this offseason, including in this video when we went over Miles Sanders. I don't trust Jalen Hurts as far as I could throw him. Yes, he does have the ability to be a top quarterback when you're talking tools and skill set. He's a mobile quarterback, so he's going to get those rushing yards on the ground. He does the majority of his work actually from the small sample size that we've seen of him on the ground, which is very good for fantasy. But our question marks definitely come from the skill players in this offense. You have Miles Sanders, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, an unproven rookie, and behind him really Jalen Hurts and nobody else. Yes, you have Travis Fulgham and a list of other players who could step up, but they're basically unproven, and in past years they really haven't done enough to separate themselves. So overall, when it comes to consensus must avoid players, Jalen Hurts is definitely a player I agree with. And one final player that did deserve an honorable mention definitely came down to Joe Burrow, who received a few votes himself. But when it comes to Joe Burrow, we know he's coming off of his ACL tear, but heads into this season with more weapons than ever to succeed. While admittedly there have been several reports out of camp that have been pretty negative, harping surrounding the Cincinnati Bengals, that should not be overlooked. I definitely think Joe Burrow is going in a stage of the draft where you're not going to be assuming too much risk in drafting him, and overall I think the package that he brings to the table is pretty fair for the price tag you get him. Regardless, he was a player that was consistently being added to this list of must avoid players at the quarterback position, so I definitely wanted to at least give him an honorable mention today. But guys, who are your must avoid players for the 2021 season? Did we hit on all the players that you think you should be avoiding, or is there a big one that you think we missed? Let us know in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed though, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.